Hi, and welcome to Accessibility with Meg. This is Meg, and we are continuing to read WCAG 2. This is a 100-day series that we'd started, and yesterday we read about Lakshmi, and Lakshmi's a senior accountant who is blind, so we read her story yesterday. Today we are continuing with the accessibility is about people document, stories of web users more specifically, and today we will be reading Lexie's story. So let's start reading. Lexie, online shopper who cannot distinguish between certain colors. So she has color blindness. Accessibility, it's about people. Continuing to read. Lexie is an older adult who loves online shopping and fantasy football. Lexie cannot see all colors equally well. Websites and apps that rely on colors alone present barriers for Lexie. Using color alone to highlight text and to indicate areas in a chart also present barriers for Lexie. But fortunately, her work colleagues have learned ways for using other visual markers in addition to color. Pausing to read. So this is a story about a person with color blindness. We're talking about Lexie, who is an online shopper, and she cannot distinguish between colors because of her color blindness. So when you're an online shopper and you're looking at things digitally and they have a certain color, it is difficult for you to understand what color that is, right? Or if some information on an e-commerce website, for example, is conveyed only using color, it's not understood properly because they would only because Lexie in this case would be able to only see tones of gray, and she cannot really say if that's a red, a green, or a yellow color, and so color blindness is something that really is a huge barrier for many people when they use the internet. So the way that WCAG suggests we overcome that is to make sure that color is not the only way in which, any information is passed on. Make sure that you use and highlight the text that's associated with that color. For example, if you want them to choose, say, for example, Lexie is shopping for a dress and that dress is available in 4 colors. Instead of just putting the color palette there and letting her choose the color she wants, writing the name of the color along with the palette is very important, so she knows that this is red, this is blue, this is green, this is pink, this is yellow, this is blue, or whatever color that outfit's available in. So it makes it easier for her instead of her having to guess what color that is, right? Let's continue to read. There is a video here. And the video is about Lexie. So let's look at the video before we go further.
How people with disabilities use digital technology. Lexie, online shopper who cannot distinguish between colours.
Hello, I'm Lexie. I was born with deuteranopia and protanopia, which people often call colour blindness. I have difficulty distinguishing between red, green, orange and brown, all of which appear to me as kind of murky brown. In a store, I often can't tell the colour of 2 shoes or 2 shirts beside each other. I love online shopping because it's often easier for me when they use the names of the colours in addition to showing the colours. Unfortunately, not all online shops have an accessible checkout experience for me. Often, the sign-up or checkout form says, "Fields in red are required." Most times, I can't tell which fields are required when they use colour only. Good shops either have the word required or that little star beside the fields, or even better, put the word optional beside the ones I can skip. Not relying on colour alone is important for other websites and apps too. For example, my favourite fantasy football app has a symbol for each team on the jersey of the players, in addition to colour. This helps me spot the players on my team more quickly, not just by reading the names under each player. Colour issues also happen at work. For example, when my colleagues highlight words in a document without using the commenting function. The commenting function outlines the marked text in addition to highlighting it. Another example is when charts don't have symbols as well as the colours for lines and bars. I can't identify them from colour alone. My team is usually careful about this, but sometimes the suppliers we work with aren't. You can help make technology accessible to me.
Accessibility. It's about people. For more information from the Web Accessibility Initiative on how people with disabilities use digital technology, visit w3.org/WAI/people.
Okay, so we see the difficulties that Lexie is facing as an online shopper, and how not being able to see color is a huge barrier, right? Let's read further. Page contents, about Lexie, barrier examples, assistive technology and adaptive strategies used, related WAI resources, related principles, video, Lexie online shopper who cannot distinguish between certain colors or color blindness. Note, the user story is an example of a person with this type of disability. Other people with this disability may have a different experience. About Lexie. Sometimes completing the checkout process is tricky because if I overlook a mandatory field, I get an error or warning message in red and it's hard for me to see the message. Stopping to read. Now, this is a real issue that you will see on many websites where errors are just shown as color. Okay, so it's like color text that is in red or in a color that a colorblind person cannot see. So it's not. It's like when the error comes up, they often miss it because it is a gray, which is mostly the text color, and they don't see it as a red, right? So because it's been shown by color alone. So a workaround that could be to put a small icon next to it that says this is an error, and not just use the text in color, right? Okay. Reading further. Lexie was born with deuteranopia and protanopia, often called color blindness, and has difficulty distinguishing among items that are red, green, orange, and brown, all of which appear to her as a murky kind of murky brown. It's more like gray, I think, but yeah. Lexie discovered that shopping for clothes online is actually an advantage over going to the physical stores. In addition to just showing pictures of items in the various colors offered, her favorite sites include color labels, making coordinating what goes together much easier. Sometimes when checking it, though, the required fields and error messages are noted with a red outline, and Lexie has to pay special attention to identify them. She noticed lately, however, that a lot of sites are getting better about using a secondary notation like an asterisk for required fields and bold text or an arrow pointing to errors. This really helps a lot, right? So something other than just colored text or just color, and in a little like an icon of some kind, does help. Much to people's surprise, Lexie is also a big football fan and has been playing fantasy football with family and workmates for years. Sometimes there can be problems with the way that these sites use color to differentiate between teams, player positions, and whether or not players are selected for her team. As a result, she tends to prefer certain fantasy football apps that don't use color as the only way to indicate information that is important to playing. This means she has to try and convince friends to play using the same app. Along with her fun, Lexie still stays connected to the latest news and happenings. This is made easier when charts and graphs related to articles show data and other visual techniques than just color. For instance, if a pie chart also has patterns and text labels, she can more easily and quickly read the information without getting frustrated and being left out completely. Yeah, so we see the different issues that turn up when somebody is colorblind, and just presenting all your information as with color is not a good idea. Making sure that patterns, text labels, something to differentiate and visible more clearly is adopted. Sorry. Okay. Barrier examples. Reading further. Using color only. Barrier. When I select a color choice, there is nothing to help me differentiate between the colors. What works well? Color choices are shown with a descriptive name. The good sites have a link to the slightly longer description of the color. Okay, so it's important that you either have a text that describes the color, or even just simply, instead of just using the color blob there, use text next to it, which is descriptive, so it has a clear label, right? Next. Reading further, color only used for errors. So, barrier, when filling out a form online, required fields and errors are marked with a red outline. What works well, in addition to color, an asterisk or words are used to identify required fields and errors. Pausing to read. I can't pronounce this word. Asterisk? Asterix? Asterix? I can't pronounce it. So it's funny when it turns up because I hesitate. Okay. Sorry for the detour, but let's continue. All right. So in addition to color, what it's saying is that using words or using a marker like the asterisk that I call star would be a better way for people with color blindness, right? Next, color only in games. Barrier. When I play an online game, enemies are marked with red circle and friends are marked with green circle. And I can't tell the difference. Absolutely, such a problem. What works well? Enemies are also marked with a symbol or use a red triangle so I can easily identify them. Okay. Reading further, chart labels. Barriers. When I'm reading news articles with data charts, I can't understand the charts as the columns aren't labeled clearly. Works well, the columns are directly labeled and use a texture as well as color. Okay, pausing to read. Charts are very important. They are used in a lot of documents. Like when we tested PDF documents, there were charts which were used, different kinds of charts, like pie charts, bar charts, line charts. Just different kinds of charts were used within those documents. Now, there were many instances where just color was used to identify regions on the chart. For example, a pie chart having different sections, the sections were labeled, there was a legend on the side with the color marker and the text next to it. But there was nothing on the chart itself. And so it was difficult when people had color issues to identify the color marker and with the color on the actual pie chart, right? So that was a barrier. So instead of that, having the pie chart and having clear marked text labels directly on the pie chart is the best way. Okay. So yeah, that's one very prevalent issue that we see, and it is a barrier for people with color blindness. Reading further, assistive technologies and adaptive strategies used, customized fonts and colors. That's a presentation. We will come to it. So using customized fonts and using colors in a way that gives colorblind people an advantage is very important. Related WAI or Y resources, video colors with good contrast. There's another video here with customizable text. Tip, provide sufficient contrast between background and foreground, very important. Tip, don't use color alone to convey meaning. Tip, ensure the interactive elements are easy to identify. Check contrast ratio, color contrast. Check form labels and errors. Okay, so these are very good tools that you can use. We will be going through all of this when we reach WCAG, like the WCAG success criteria. When we're going through that, we will definitely be going through all of this again. So I'm not going to go over it right now, but just to know that with color, just using color alone to convey meaning is a huge barrier. And there are ways to go around that. And one of the most important checks that we can do is with the contrast ratio. Also making sure, that the contrast ratio meets the WCAG standards, which is 4.5 is to 1 for graphic images, and 3 is to 1 for 3 is to 1 for graphics, and 4.5 is to 1 for small text, and 3 is to 1 for larger text. So there are these, this is for a 2.1 AA conformance. I don't want to go into the details before we reach there, but we will go through those in detail. But for now, this is enough. Reading further, related principles. Content can be presented in different ways, which is perceivable principle. So content is easier to see and hear, perceivable again. Content is compatible with current and future user tools, robust. Success criteria relating to contrast. Okay. We finished seeing the video for Lexie, but I would like to see it one more time. Let's see it one more time. And then, that would be, and then just close. But before we see that video, I want to say thank you so much. And I want to say that this is just an effort that I am making for myself and for anybody, even that one person who this can help. So if it does help, it means something to you, please do subscribe because that would help me as well. And like, share, comment. Feel free to ask questions if there is anything that you want to know. And thank you so much. Let's see the video, and then I will close this video. Okay, thanks.
How people with disabilities use digital technology. Lexie, online shopper who cannot distinguish between colours.
Hello, I'm Lexie. I was born with deuteranopia and protanopia, which people often call colour blindness. I have difficulty distinguishing between red, green, orange and brown, all of which appear to me as kind of murky brown. In a store, I often can't tell the colour of 2 shoes or 2 shirts beside each other. I love online shopping because it's often easier for me when they use the names of the colours in addition to showing the colours. Unfortunately, not all online shops have an accessible checkout experience for me. Often, the sign up or checkout form says, "Fields in red are required." Most times, I can't tell which fields are required when they use colour only. Good shops either have the word required or that little star beside the fields, or even better, put the word optional beside the ones I can skip. Not relying on colour alone is important for other websites and apps too. For example, my favourite fantasy football app has a symbol for each team on the jersey of the players, in addition to colour. This helps me spot the players on my team more quickly, not just by reading the names under each player. Colour issues also happen at work. For example, when my colleagues highlight words in a document without using the commenting function. The commenting function outlines the marked text in addition to highlighting it. Another example is when charts don't have symbols as well as the colours for lines and bars. I can't identify them from colour alone. My team is usually careful about this, but sometimes the suppliers we work with aren't. You can help make technology accessible to me.
Accessibility. It's about people. For more information from the Web Accessibility Initiative on how people with disabilities use digital technology, visit w3.org/WAI/people.
Before we go, I just want to say one thing, that all the content and the video that you see on this video, all of it is copyright to W3C. I'm just using the content that they have online and making these videos. I do it for myself so that I can get through all of that content that's there, because I find it very difficult to read so much text. But when I make these videos, it does help me read through all of it. I'm also making it for just any person out there who this would help, because I am explaining things in between the way that I understand it, and I am hoping that it will help somebody. And if it's too overwhelming to read the entire ocean of WCAG, this way of piecing it into smaller pieces is easier to take in. And so if this helps anybody, that's the reason why it's here. So thank you so much, and I'll see you again in the next video. Bye.